So you've been called a jack of all trades, or unfocused, or told to just pick one thing. This video just might be for you. Today, I'm sharing 5 signs that you might actually be a multi-passionate. And if you end up relating to 3 of these signs, then you absolutely are a multi-passionate. All right, let's get started. Sign number 1, you get absolutely obsessed with a new hobby and then you kind of move on. First, you find this new hobby, you're really excited about it. You might have seen it on social media and you just get really into it. So you're like, yeah, let's do it. Then you do all of this research on it. You buy books, you buy supplies, you get really into it, okay? And then you get really good at it. You become not necessarily an expert, but you get very, very good at it. You glide through that beginner phase because you did so much research. You got all the supplies, you watched so many videos on it, and you're good at it now. And then you keep at it for a while, but then you fizzle out. And now you're just on to the next. This is not a bad thing. This is literally just how you learn in life. This is also how you grow. You're not flaky, you're not indecisive, and you're not non-committal. You just enjoy learning and you enjoy the process of the new thing that you just learned. When I first started learning how to crochet, I learned at a very young age and I was very on and off with it. And then I got bored with it. I was a kid then. Then when 2020 hit, I started to pick it back up and I was actually really good at it. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember how to do that. And then I just got really good pretty quickly and then it fizzled out. And I didn't pick crochet back up for another year or so. Sign number 2 that you might be a multi-passionate is you struggle to answer the question, what do you do? Panic sets in. You're like, you might confuse people with what you say. You might say your 9 to 5, your side hustle, or just a hobby you're working on. You'll be like, yeah, I'm a woodworker, but you're actually a data analyst. You really struggle to identify with the one thing. And oftentimes you do downplay yourself. You might say, hey, I do some woodworking here and there, but in reality, you're very good at it. You have a whole side hustle going on. And it's actually going really well for you. And you just downplay yourself. And people are like, but you don't you do this for a living at this point? Didn't you quit your 9 to 5 to become a woodworker? And you're like, well, yeah, but so you just downplay yourself a little bit. What I like to do is I like to come up with an umbrella term. So for me, I would just say I'm an artist because when I tell you I do so many different things in my life, it's just easier to say artist. I focus more on creative endeavors than like more technical endeavors. So I like to say artist, but you can also say entrepreneur. I think entrepreneur is a really good umbrella term for a lot of us because we do end up having businesses in 1 or 2 of our passions. So it just makes sense to say either artist or entrepreneur. And 9 times out of 10, they do end up interchanging. So whichever. Sign number 3, I think a lot of us can relate to this, even if you're not multi-passionate, but you have so many tabs open, both mentally and physically, actually. So like mentally, there's a lot going on in the brain. You're thinking about 3 different projects you might be working on, but like physically, you actually have 3 projects going on. Your notes app is in chaos. You have folders and folders and folders of ideas. Your Notion looks crazy. It's not even organized like it should be, but you know what's going on in there. So you just go with the flow. You have your projects going on. You're reading 3 books of all different genres. It's a self-help book in there, a mystery book, and a romantasy. What is going on? Why are you reading so many books at once? You also might get told to focus on one thing, or my favorite, to niche down. But that honestly feels impossible because how am I supposed to keep talking about the same thing for the next, 10 years. One thing about being multi-passionate is that it is hard to do things in a linear way. So you end up doing them linear adjacent. So it's kind of parallel. Everything you do is more parallel. So you could be working on 3 different projects and it does not bother you. It doesn't really make you burn out. You're just like, whatever, this is actually really fun. I can switch between knitting, crocheting, sewing in a week. and I'm completely fine. So you do things more parallel and not linear. Having your tabs open is just simply how you work. That's how you're wired, and that's okay. Sign number 4, you see connections everywhere. Okay, I really do have to explain this one, so bear with me. There are patterns and connections in everything that you do. You start to see things and how they connect. I think a really good example of this is knitting and sewing. They are actually very, very similar, and they do have a connection. In knitting, when you are making wearables, you are creating a panel, or in this case, I'll call it a bodice. And in sewing, you are cutting out a bodice or a panel. It's interesting because you can essentially actually knit up a rectangle and then cut it out to create a bodice if you really wanted to. If you were like, I don't know how to increase or decrease in knitting, you can just make a rectangle and then cut it out and sew it together. And there you have it. Now, that does seem like a lot of work, but if you're having trouble with it, that's what you could do. And that's a nice connection there. Another example is cooking and oil painting, and the connection there is mise en place or prep work. So in cooking, you typically have to get all your ingredients together, seasonings, all of that. You might have to marinate and just prep all your food, all your ingredients and herbs, and then cook it once it's ready. And with oil painting, you also have to do a lot of prep work. You have to prep your canvas, and I mean really prep your canvas. You have to get all your paints mixed. It is best to do it before and not during the process, trust me. And you have to make sure your space is just tidy enough and there's a lot of airflow going through because you don't want to suck up all those fumes. But those both have a whole mise en place in place, and there's definitely a connection there. So a lot of things do have similarities and connections, and I think that's really, really cool because different disciplinaries make you a natural problem solver. And honestly, being a problem solver is a superpower, and that is why I believe being a multi-passionate is its own superpower, because I know how to do all these things. There's so many connections, and it makes it easier to figure out other things. So like if you know how to crochet, knitting is not that much harder, and vice versa. Honestly, learning how to crochet and knit has actually made me a better sewer. It has taught me a lot of patience, to be completely honest. And last but not least, sign number 5, finding your one true calling makes you anxious and sounds out of reach, to be completely honest. Chances are most career advice has never really worked for you. You just are kind of like, yeah, I'm just doing this as a means to an end. But even that is kind of like, don't really want to do this. One job for many, many years sounds like hell on earth, and you would rather just not do that. And choosing just one thing as a multi-passionate kind of makes you feel like you're losing a part of yourself. You used to think that something was wrong with you, but now you know that's just how you're wired. You are truly a lifelong learner. And those are the signs that you are a multi-passionate. So if you've been called a jack of all trades, or you struggle with answering what you do for a living, or you have all those tabs open, and you might see connections everywhere, and finding one true calling just breeds anxiety. If you are 3 out of 5 of those, you are most likely a multi-passionate, and that makes you one of us. But congratulations, welcome to the gang. If you're new to this, I know it can sound very overwhelming, but I promise as time goes on and you learn how to actually navigate being a multi-passionate, it becomes very, very easy. Like, you don't have to really learn anything to become a multi-passionate, but just like accepting and embracing it is really the main parts, and it just becomes so much easier, and then you can figure out what you want to do with your life. For me personally, I know that I am a multi-passionate, so now I can do something in my life that gives me the freedom to be one, like creating YouTube videos, being on social media, being a freelancer. But those are just to name a few of the things. But there's no fixing this, because you don't need to fix something that isn't broken, because you're not broken. Really, all you need to do is just find systems that really work for you and work in your life, and keep your life and your brain organized. Because I promise, once you start to organize this whole multi-passionate life, it becomes 10 times easier, and it starts to make a whole lot more sense. And that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know which sign may have hit you the most. Let's have a discussion in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.